The scenario to be played is Destruction. It has a 12x6 rectangle placed in the middle of the board. It has the kill box in effect. You will then also place 2 objectives on opposite corners. You get 1 point for destroying or removing from play your opponent's objective. You get 1 control point for controlling the zone and 2 for dominating. First person to 5 points wins the game.
Evening, folks. Fort here. Tonight I'm playing Mohsar the Desertwalker with a Wilder, Megalith, Gorax, and a Stalker. A couple of units of Bloodweavers, a unit of Bloodtrackers with Nuala, a single shifting stone unit with a Stonekeeper, 2 of the new Bloodweaver Night Witches, and a single Gallows Grove. I like the magic weapons in my army, but my opponent's list is going to be rough on me.
Greetings, this is Iron Lich W, and this week I decided to bring a Maelok list. I went ahead and foregone the tier list in order to take the 3rd Posse. That way I could do 3 Posse units along with 2 max Croak units and take advantage of Maelok's feat and just try and be aggressive early with my opponent.
Well, I won the role to go first. I chose this side of the board because I didn't really care that much about either side. I liked my wall here, but there's a similar wall on the other side. The forest and the hills are about equivalent. So I gave up a forest for a trench, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to set up in a fairly balanced formation. I've got 2 units of Bloodweavers on either side with a Night Witch supporting both, and then all my battle group in the center of the map.
So I started deployment by putting Maelok just to the left of the wall so I could take advantage of it, with a Posse unit on his left and 2 other Posse units on the right side of Maelok. Posse units are going to be key because they're going to be the jam unit and the unit that's going to go after the zone, with the Croak Raiders going after the objective and picking off opportunities, targets of opportunity. And then I'm going to have a Croc Dock on each side.
So I will be setting up in the center here and praying whichever Croak unit he sets up on the bottom down there. I want to have a little bit of the forest to protect my little chicks. Gallows Grove is going to go so they can get in the forest and not be immediately set on fire. I'm just going to spread the stones out as far apart as I can and go from there.
For advanced deployment, I put 1 unit of Croaks on the far right because they are going to go after the opponent's objective. And then I put 1 unit on the far left flank. The purpose of the unit on the far left flank is to take advantage of that hill and to free up the Gatorman Posse, which are going to go to the center because the Croak Raiders have a decent range.
Well, my opponent has set up fairly centrally with the bulk of his army, with Croaks spread out wide to each flank. So I'm going to get this tree in the southern forest to run the trackers towards the southernmost pack of Croaks because those are what I have prayed. I'm going to try to keep them far enough back where they can keep their stealth if he just advances to try to shoot them, or they'll have cover in the wood, or concealment in the woods, or cover in that trench. After that, I have to kind of decide what I'm going to do. So I'm going to prowl the Stalker and run him. He doesn't quite have enough to get to the tree line, so he's going to stay behind the trees. Move the stones up so I'll know where to move the rest of my army, keep everything in. The Megalith's going to trample up and put a Mirage on Nuala's unit, targeting that one right in front of him there. Now the little chicks, the crazy chicks with the daggers, are going to run up into the forest here. I'm going to try to get them far enough forward that they can see through 3 inches of forest, so they're not looking through 3 inches of forest, so that they'll be able to charge into his army. The Night Witch, I probably moved her a little too far forward, but we'll see. Same thing with the northernmost unit. It's going to try to get into those Croaks, but I'm not certain that it'll be able to. They all have stealth, so they're hard to hit. I'm trying to figure out how I want Mohsar to do his thing. So he's going to move forward. I didn't look at my opponent's army, or I would have never cast Sunhammer, but I did cast Sunhammer. I put down 2 pillars of salt to try to block a little bit of his movement, and then I cast Sunhammer. I'm going to be so far out of away from his beasts that it's not going to matter. And he only has bull snappers over there for beasts, so Sunhammer was a big waste of time. Gorax will just rile and then run. Wilder runs up, and that ends my turn.
For minions turn 1, I started off by activating Maelok first. He cast Death Pact on the Broadleaf Posse members, moved up and cast Spiny Growth. Followed by both Bull Snappers who advance and cast Spiny Growth on essentially the front 3 Broadleaf Gators, making them armor much higher than they normally would be without Spiny Growth. So once the Bull Snappers are done, I go ahead and activate the Gators who chant Dirge of Mist, and they run as close as they can to get into the zone. That way if my opponent retaliates against them, they have armor, their armor is in the 20s, and they will be able to survive the next turn. Look in defeat on turn 2. Once the first unit of Gators is done, the second unit of Gators, they also Dirge of Mist and run to get in position, trying to create like a wall of Posse members to threaten my opponent. I figure if I can get a good turn 2 feat, I will be able to get control of the zone. So as I run to get all my Posse members in place, I go ahead and activate the Croak units on the left flank. I just shuffle them because I don't want to get them any closer since they have prey on them. I figure if they stay on the hill, they have a good range threat, they'll be able to do damage from a distance. With a Gator, a Witch Doctor throwing Zombify on the left flanking Gator Posse. Then I activate the Gobbers who advance, and they put a 5-inch cloud in play. Once the Gobbers are done, I activate my 3rd Gatorman unit. They dirge and they run out. I leave one member of the Posse in front kind of as the bait or to get free strikes if my opponent tries to threaten the remaining Posse members, with the Witch Doctor activating and zombifying that Gator unit as well. Then I finish turn 1 by advancing the Croaks into the forest, looking to get them in position for next turn.
My opponent kept his Croaks really far back and didn't move his Gators very far forward either. Ignored my 2 pillars of salt. So I'm going to go up and shoot a few of these Gators that have Curse of Shadows on them and see what happens. I don't want to get too close to the Croaks. I don't want to get too close to the Gators either. My army, once I lose these magic weapons chicks, is very vulnerable to his feet. So my plan is going to be to try to bait him forward with his caster, and then use Mohsar with Sands of Fate to teleport next to his caster and try to kill him with a weapon master with a whole bunch of fury. We'll see how that works out. It's not going to be an easy thing, but I can run through a Curse of Shadows unit with an infantry model to get next to his caster without any free strikes or anything, if I can pull that off. So Mohsar goes forward, he hits the unit with Curse of Shadows, and then he's going to just camp on the rest of that fury. I could put out a couple of walls, but I'd rather have the 4 transfers. Now the chicks with sticks are going to go, and they're going to try to shoot as many of these Gators as they can. They have tough and undead, and they have a Dirge of Mist, so they're going to be hard to hurt. I have one of I made sure that I put one of the Bloodtrackers up next to my Effigy of Valor so that I was fearless for the turn before I took off. So that's going to be a big help because I have a horrible time trying to pass command checks for some reason. So here we go with the shooting, and we hit a lot but don't do a lot of damage to them. They're fairly high armor and without prey on them, which I should have prayed the Gators. I just didn't think that my opponent would keep the Croaks as far back as he did. I guess it's a good move by him because my little chicks are very hard to hit with Rat 6 range attacks. They have to get within 5 inches of me because I have stealth, and then they have to roll an 8 or better. The good thing for him, though, is if he hits me, he doesn't have to shoot any oil at me. He can just kill him, so he's got that going for him. These are not soul markers. We're just marking the models that have shot, and those are the most handy tokens that I could find. We're doing a lot of shooting, but not doing a lot of damage. Now everything to the above that soul marker is fired, so now we're just going down the line. he took a tough check there. Now we're going to shoot the guy on the hill. He has a tough check. That one failed his second tough check, so we're doing okay. And then we missed. So they're going to reform back out of the way, out of reach of the Croaks. The Gators can still get them, but it is what it is. I try to get deep into the woods, but I can't get deep enough that he can't see me with all of them. My big mistake here is I blocked in my Blood Witch with those two models. Now that she doesn't have enough room to get between the base, I'm just going to have to leave her there or back her up. I'm sending one Bloodweaver in to try to take out that broken down, or knocked down, sorry, that knocked down Gator. The rest of them are just going to get into position so that if the Croaks come forward, they can charge them and do some dirt. I mean, if he thinks about it, he'll probably zombify the Croaks if he comes up to mess with my guys, because it takes away a lot of my abilities. The Blood Witches or the Bloodweavers want to have living models as their targets as much as possible, and that's a big weakness in my army against his, is all these Bloodweavers and the Night Witch to its degree all want to be fighting against living models. They're much more devastating against the living models than they are against these undead Gators. So we're going to move up to get gang on these two lead Gators. My hope is by sacrificing this unit up top, it will look like to him that he can come take out my objective and squeeze his caster over that way. And if he gets his caster too far forward, I can run one of these Bloodtrackers, because they'll be within 10 inches of these Croaks, which are their prey. I can run them 16 inches towards his caster. So it'd be good. So I have gang, so I hit, but I don't do anything with the damage roll. And then the other one hits. And yeah, there's the hit roll. That one misses, and that one doesn't do any damage. Just like 2 damage to him. I tried to move the Blood Witch with the unit. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking UA or something, I guess. But no, she can't move with the unit. So she's going to go hide in the trench to try to take out as many Croaks as she can if they come forward. Which I'm sure they will. I mean, the Gators alone can murder these little chicks with cold-blooded, and they're fairly high mat. They hit them, they're just dead. I'm trying to think of where I want my battle group and my caster to be set up for next turn. I kind of lost that tree to one single Curse of Shadows at a distance. It didn't net me any much. My beasts are just moving up. I'm going to rile them up and get them set up for teleports for the next turn. See what happens.
Minions turn 2. I go ahead and decide that this is a good feed turn. My opponent only has a few models in the zone. So I go ahead and start by activating Maelok. He's going to cast Revive to get my one dead Gator Posse member back. But before I do this, I first want to make sure I give him a good position. So as I'm trying to figure out how I want the turn to unfold, do a little measuring to make sure, to see where my feet would be able to capture if I were to not move. Then I decide to move Maelok, hop the wall, getting rid of the advantage of cover, pop feet. I do cast Revive to make sure my positioning of the returned Gatorman Posse member is good. I know one thing I want to do is try to jam my opponent out of the zone this turn and get a couple control points. So I place that Posse member to make sure that I can get charged to try and free up some of the other the Broadleaf Posse members. And then I go ahead and cast Spiny Growth on the Broadleaf members, because they are essentially going to be my meat shield. So once the Maelok is done, I go ahead and activate the Gators, the left flanking Gators. They do Cold Blood since my opponent has high defense, and they take the order to charge. Because they are affected by Maelok's feet, they charge through my opponent's models. Then a couple that were knocked down because they made tough, they kind of just, they sacrificed their action and went and got cover. So once I figure out that I can't charge through certain models my opponent has because they have magical weapons, I'm forced to charge models up front. And I end up only killing 2 members, but that's 1 Posse unit, so I still have a few others to go with. So I activate a Bull Snappers next, both of them, that's pretty much one right after the other. They advance and cast Spiny Growth on the Broadleaf Gator unit that's in the center of the board, are a member of each of the unit. And then I activate the Broadleaf Gator unit. They do Cold Blood, and they charge my opponent. Make sure I got clear alleys. I do end up taking free strikes. However, using the Broadleaf Gators, I do get 4 out of 5 members in the zone. Which kind of kills me, because after the fact, I realized I needed everyone in the zone in order to score. So I'm a little salty about that, but they do end up killing the 3 models that I felt I needed to get rid of, at least immediately. So once the Broadleaf Gator unit is done, go ahead and activate the Gobbers. They move up, they throw down a 5-inch cloud to help give Maelok concealment. And once the Gobbers are done, activate the Gatorman Witch Doctors. They advance and zombify the Broadleaf Gatorman unit. At least the first one does. Then I activate the Croaks that are on the left flank. I have them charge in because I know I want to get rid of my opponent's Arc Node. So I throw 3 of the Croaks out there, then the rest kind of shimmy and try to behind the Gatorman posse that's on the left flank. I end up killing the tree. I accept that I'm going to lose those 3 Croak Raiders. I got most of the unit left. I'm thinking I'm still good to go. And once the Croaks are done, I activate the last Gatorman Witch Doctor, who zombifies the remaining Gatorman posse that's on the far right flank, and they take the order to charge. I send 2 after the objective, because this turn I'm fairly confident I'm able to kill the objective. At the same time, I need to unjam the Croak Raiders that are on the right flank. So where I misplayed my feat, later in turn I realized that the models have to be undead in order to get the incorporeal advantage, so I did misplay the first 2 Gatorman posse activations. But once my opponent and I figured out that I was playing it, I was able to correct the gameplay and try to proceed with the rest of the game. Anyhow, the third posse, they end up damaging my opponent's objective, however they do not destroy it. But they do go ahead and thin out the Bloodweavers numbers on the right flank so that I still have a good sized portion of my forces on the right flank. So I need to start moving my caster or my warlock to the right side to try and keep them alive. So once the Gators are done, they kill a couple of the Bloodweavers. I go ahead and activate the Croaks. Because I didn't kill the objective, I need to make sure that I can get as many as I can as close to the objective as possible. Not sure I had the range to objective for oil. I decided to go ahead and throw the oil of the closest Croak member at the Gatorman posse that is right in front of the objective. So once I'm done moving everyone, because at the same time some members of the unit are going to have to throw darts of fire at the objective. Other ones are going to have to utilize their gang ability to get rid of some of the Bloodweavers. So I do end up hitting the Gatorman Posse in the back with oil. Because it's 3-inch AoE, it hits the objective. Then the first Croak Raider threw a flaming dart at the objective, goes at it and destroys it, giving me 1 control point. The Croaks, when they have gang, they're actually reasonable in combat, so they end up killing one of the Bloodweavers. But since one is left, that does create problems for their next activation.
Iron Lich did not take the bait. His caster's fairly safe, so I'm going to try to clear out some of this riffraff down at the bottom and keep him from murdering everything up the top, or all my stuff that's left. Trying to determine which gators are part of which unit. He's got one unit that has these round leaves, but then he's got 2 units with pointy leaves. It's hard to tell the difference, I guess. So I'm doing my Mirage move with the Nuala and the Trackers, and then they're going to go to work on... his Croak kind of came in and ganged up and took out the stuff that I left up forward, but he did put some of his Croaks in vulnerable positions now, so I'm going to try to take out as many of those as I can, and a few of the Gators. I'm trying to decide how to go about this. I really don't want to give him any more points. He's got 1 point already for killing my objective and 1 point for controlling my zone. I don't want to give him 2 more for dominating my zone. That would be bad. And I can't give him any points on my turn because he would win immediately on his turn. So here we go. I'm hoping to bait him into that zone so that he thinks he's going to get dominating points once he gets that top part clear with standing in the corner of my zone. So I don't charge with my chicks because I want to be able to throw with the ones that can. So here we go. We're killing things and snap firing. Snap firing into my prey targets, but they're hard to hit because they're on a hill. Kill him. I guess I'll snap fire into that gator there. I think he's only got 1 hit point left, so we'll try to whack him if we can. He did not zombify the gators this turn, or that unit of gators there this turn. He zombified the other 2 units of gators and a unit of Croaks like I thought he was going to do. So here we go. We're going to reform into that gator and back up a little bit here and there. I want to give my little Bloodweavers room to get through. So here they go. They're going to, since they're living, they can do their blood burst ability on the gator. They can't do it on the Croaks, but they can do it on the gator because the Croaks are now undead. So that gator I'm going to try to blood burst, and that's enough to make him make tough checks on those frogs without me having to roll too high. I believe they're, what, strength 7 or 8, 9 maybe even. They're pretty good strength. The rolls were okay, and I got him with the second one. So now we're doing the 5-inch template to see what it gets. And it gets quite a bit. The gators, though, themselves, it can't really hurt them because they're all engaging my little chicks for the most part. So their armor's high. But I got a couple of Croaks. I'm happy with that. Now the one up north is going to do her thing. I'm not thinking she's going to do a whole lot, but we're going to give her a chance to shine. All the rest of her sisters are gone. And she misses. The Blood Witch was so far away she wasn't going to be able to get any of her side steps or overtakes or whatever that is she has and do any killing. Killing spree wasn't going to trigger but more than once. But the little chick, the Bloodweaver, was in her command, and she would have been able to trigger it a bunch. She just couldn't hit. Megalith's going to go up. I'm going to put up Undergrowth, and I'm going to do a power attack 2-minute throw and boost to hit that one guy there and throw him into the gator that's over there in my zone. That's his buddy. Knock them both down, and hopefully the Stalker will go in and sprint and kill them. I didn't want to have to try to swing at defense 13s, which would be defense 11s with Undergrowth up. And not kill them with the Stalker and him getting stuck in there because they are tough. I wanted to make sure that if I went in there with the Stalker, I wasn't throwing them away on my opponent getting good tough rolls. So with that in mind, the Wilder's going to cast Lightning Strike on the Stalker. The Stalker's going to put up strength or warp for strength and go in and try to murder these guys, And he kills the first one. Tough check fails. Kills the second one. Buys an attack, and yeah, he's dead. My opponent fails that tough check, so now we can sprint away. He's going to sprint into the zone. My plan here is I couldn't... I don't have anything else in the zone to contest, so he and the Gorax are going to go up and contest, and Mohsar is going to walk up behind them. And I'm going to swap Curse of Shadows to the unit that I need to get it on, so that I'll be able to run through them with my Bloodtracker next turn if my plan follows the plan. And I'm going to put up a couple of Pillars of Salt, and hopefully that will be enough to keep my 2 living beasts alive. He could just ignore them and throw fire with a couple of those Croaks back there, but I've engaged all but one of them, so if he does that, he's only going to get one of the pillars with the Croak.
Minions turn 3. My opponent has popped his feet, which prevents me from leeching Fury and cutting myself to get more Fury. Short end of the stick is the first Bull Sniper fails his Frenzy check and ends up charging Maelok, putting some damage on him. Second Bull Sniper also frenzies, and after I get done checking closest target, he ends up attacking one of the Gobbers and munching him. So I have 1 Fury on me, I have 1 transfer. That means I am going to be moving away from my opponent because I don't want any bad things to happen to my caster. But I go ahead and activate the Gators first. The Gator Posse on the right flank. What my goal is they do Cold Blood, then they take the order to charge/run. I need to get rid of my opponent's remaining forces. He's got 1 Blood Witch and that new solo. Need to get rid of them so I can get my caster over there and to safe haven. So with Cold Blood, I end up hitting and killing the 2 remaining. Well, the 1 remaining Blood Witch and the Blood Witch solo. I can't remember the name of the model at the moment. And then I activate the Croak Raider unit that's on the right flank, and they end up running to get in position for the following turn. Now my opponent's popped his feet. His forces or his infantry is starting to thin out. I feel I have the advantage going forth if I am able to keep myself alive on 1 Fury. So after the Croaks are done running, I activate the Gatorman with shotgun right side, and I end up zombifying the right flank posse. Once that's done, Maelok advances away from the action, gets close to the rest of the forces, and as close to safety as possible. Then I activate the Gobbers, who are the remaining Gobber, passes command check, advanced, and put down a 3-inch smoke template since his buddy's now toast. So I activate the Croaks on the left flank. 4 out of the 5 remaining Croaks are engaged. So really I am only able to, activate the Gators. They dirge a miss. And they go ahead and they don't charge, but they just kind of move to attack. So I'm working on placement of my Gators. Megalith's ability does slow down and increase some confusion initially, but once I get it worked out, I get all Gators in command range, and I go out and throw some attacks out. Well, normally I've had to do Cold Blood, but this turn I felt I needed Dirge, just to give them that better defense since I'm starting to lose Gators faster than I can replace them. And now the dice decided to heat up a little bit, and the 1 Gatorman Posse unit on the left flank that has activated and done Dirge ends up killing 4, not needing the rerolls. So that's good for me. Then I activate the left flank Croaks. 4 of the 5 Croaks are engaged, so I move the one that's not engaged further out, and then I just do melee attacks with the remaining 4, and they they show their spirit and end up killing the two infantry models that are engaging them. So then once they're done, I activate the Broadleaf Gators. I just have them shuffle about. At this point, I'm just trying to create a shield to keep my Warlock safe. Then I activate the remaining, or they do it, try and attack a stone but fail to kill it. I activate the remaining Witch Doctor. I have him advance and do Zombify on the left flank Gators.
Well, Iron Lich did move his caster into a position where I can get to him, and he's got a lot of stuff all over the place. I'm going to go for the assassination that I was talking about earlier. I might be able to actually pull out a scenario victory by just killing as much of the stuff as he has. But that northernmost unit of Croak scares me. My battle group is starting to be the only thing that I have left that's got any punch. And that northern group of Croaks can just murder my battle group fairly easily. So with that in mind, I do my Mirage moves to get my little chicks in places that they can run far enough to get to Maelok. I just need to deal with the two Gators that are in the trench there. They don't have Curse of Shadows on them, so I cannot go past them without getting free struck. I can't move through them. So I'm measuring control area, trying to figure out what to do. I decide that the Druid Wilder is going to primal up the Stalker, and then the stones. This Warpwolf Stalker is within the unit of stones. It's kind of hard to tell from this angle, but he's within. So he's going to get teleported behind his front line so that I can get to that Gator that's partially in the trench there, the dark green one. And if I can kill that Gator, my plan is for Megalith to try to walk over and throw the other one. I'm not sure if Megalith's close enough. It's going to be a close thing. The Stalker proceeds to just chop up the two Gators that I'm trying to get rid of. The only one I need to really kill is the one that's partially in the trench, and that's the target that I'm going to keep chopping on until he's dead. I get him with 2 hits, so he makes one tough check and fails the other. So now I have the other Gator. I might as well kill him while I'm there. So we do. He fails his tough check. I'm not going to even roll on this Gator, even though he is within reach, because I want to be able to throw him at his caster. So Megalith walks over. Megalith can get almost in base to base with this guy. He can walk through the other 2 Gators because they have Curse of Shadows on them. So now we're going to do a 2-handed throw and boost to hit. We hit, and then we'll do our strength check, which was Snake Eyes. I win the strength check, however. Could have been bad there. And now I'm going to throw him at Maelok. Maelok is just outside of 5.5 inches, like just a hair. So I don't get the distance. However, I drift to the direction 1, which is what I needed, and it hits Maelok. I probably could have drifted to 2 or 6 and got him as well, but the 1 was just it was no contest that it got him. Now the Bloodtrackers are going to go. They're going to run, charge. I did one more attack on the other Gator, just knocked him down. And I can get one within reach of him by running. She could actually run 16 inches because she was within 10 of one of her prey targets. And the rest are just going to charge this Gator with Nuala running over toward the middle there to get everything in command. I don't even bother rolling on the Gator because if I don't win here with Mohsar, I lose. Mohsar is going to maltreat a beast to get up to full fury, and then he's going to Sands of Fate over there. And since he has erosion on his main weapon, so he gets an additional die against my opponent's undead caster. Took me 2 hits. He transferred 1, but that was a good game. See you folks next time. Hopefully Mark III is coming soon.
For Minions Afterthoughts, I am looking back at the course of the game, and I'm realizing I probably should have just ran my caster a full 10 inches to get further away from my opponent's army instead of just moving him 5. But at that point in time, I was thinking more of attack, like I want to get him to position to attack next turn when I was able to read Fury from my beast, or collect Fury from my beast, and I did not foresee my opponent throwing models at me, because I'm like, I know Mohsar has a relatively low mat, and I have a decent defense, so my opponent would need above average dice to hit me, but I did not factor in my opponent throwing something at me to knock me down. And once he knocked me down, then of course I'm like, yeah, I know what's going to come next. He's going to Agent Smith in with Sands of Fate and finish the game in melee. So, lesson learned for next game against Mohsar.